Blog Talk Radio.
Hello.
Fulfill Radio, a voice you can trust. Broadcasting live presents Two Guys and a Bible with Don Preston and William Bell. Join us each week at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central as we bring you exciting, sound, challenging, and comforting messages regarding the end times. Thank you for tuning in today. Don Preston is the founder of Preterist Research Institute, or PRI. Don is a prolific author, having written and published 19 books, a host of audio and DVD studies, and is a debater and defender of the full preterist view. His websites are BibleProphecy.com, Eschatology.org, and DonKPreston.com. William Bell is the founder of AllThingsFulfilled.com Ministries and has a website bearing the same name, and has authored 3 books, audios, and DVDs. He has published hundreds of articles and recordings. And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two Guys and a Bible broadcast with Don Preston and William Bell. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Two Guys and a Bible, right here on Fulfill Radio, a voice you can trust. I am William Bell, and with me today is Don Preston. Don, how are you doing?
Well, pardon me. I'm doing fine, William. Still struggling with my voice. You know, after the weekend of three solid days of just nonstop talk and speaking 3 times, I came up with a case of laryngitis yesterday morning. I couldn't even do my morning musings. I managed to make it through my morning musing this morning. I don't know how. I don't know how well I'm going to do this evening, so be good if you can kind of do a lot of the talking, because the voice just really doesn't work. I've already had to use my respirator just in order to get started, so that's kind of where we are. But other than that, I feel absolutely great. We had a wonderful weekend, as you know, at the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend 2018, and so William, as of about an hour ago, on YouTube, the playbacks, the viewership of the 3 days had reached almost 6,000 people, or I should say 6,000 views.
That's outstanding. That's really, really excellent.
It is.
I'm really
very excited
about that. Yeah. Well, I almost panicked a moment ago because apparently you had already set up the broadcast for tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, I had, as a matter of fact.
Okay. And I was trying to set it up, and it told me, well, you've already broadcasted today. So that's why I was a little bit slow getting in, because I was, had got everything in and was trying to enter it, and I kept hitting the button, and nothing would go through. And so I went back and looked. I said, what are we doing on the 17th? And, I said, well, has Dunn already been broadcasting? And then I looked and saw the broadcast, and I said, well, let me try one more thing. I'll just try to, pull that up and go to the studio and see what's on. And there it was. So anyway, but thanks a lot. I'm glad you're becoming technically savvy now, and you can handle these very complex issues.
You know I'm not becoming technologically savvy. But at the end of last week's program, I noticed that it just kind of popped up and gave me the opportunity. And I thought, well, okay, I'll see if I can do this for future occasions, especially. I had intended to let you know that I had set the program up. I didn't know if it would cause you any difficulty or not, but I was kind of quite pleased with myself, as a matter of fact, that I went through the process and it seemed to work and seemed to be all set up. And I thought, well, look at there.
Yeah, well, it's good. You Next time, just make sure you include the intro, and you have to manually do the outro. But other than that, and a few images, you'd be fantastic. So, but great that you got it set up. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed, and that's great. Well, I just wanted to say that the past weekend and the Predators Pilgrim Weekend Conference was absolutely just phenomenal. It was, we had a great time, excellent speeches, and it was just really, really good. I enjoyed myself a lot from being around, people and hearing people want to study, want to share the information, and then listening to all of you guys speak. It's always a pleasure, and I just appreciated it very, very much. I was really impressed with, Larry's lesson that introduced the conference this year. I mean, it was just absolutely phenomenal, and so I appreciated that from him. But Alan Bundar gave a perspective on the judgment in Matthew 25 that, I hadn't seen before, I hadn't considered. I don't know whether you had. I think I remember you making some statements to that effect as well, but it was a very, very good study, and just some excellent material that was presented, which I just really, really enjoyed, and always enjoy the fellowship and the time to see people getting together. Those people who are out there that do not have maybe a regular fellowship that they associate with, and they come and they get fed during these times and have an opportunity to rub shoulders. So it's just very, very good. And then, of course, there's always the after-speech studies and questions that we get that are always interesting. And I had, several of those conversations, as I'm sure you did as well. So, and the food was good. All the extra work that the ladies do to go through preparing the meals and making sure that everybody's fed and we've got plenty of water to drink. All of that is just an amazing task to put together, and you all did it extremely well, and so we appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and like you, I just heard so many good comments from different people who came up and told me that this is one of the best conferences that you've ever had. It's just wonderful, and so we're so thrilled that people were able to come. We were, as you well know, we were very concerned that offering the live stream would cut down on our attendance. It did last year. It cut down on our attendance a good bit last year, so much so that we were very concerned that we just didn't know what the balance was going to be between personal attendance, physical attendance, and folks watching on live stream. I mean, let's face it, it is expensive to travel. Ardmore is somewhat isolated. We know that. It's 2 hours from Oklahoma City, almost. It's 2 hours from the Dallas airport. And so for people to fly in, number one, obviously, it's expensive to fly. And then they have to rent a car. And then they have hotel expense. So it is absolutely not easy for people to attend our conference. We realize that. And yet, oh my goodness gracious, the enthusiasm of the audience that was here, and then to see the viewership after the very, very first night, Thursday night, which there were only two speeches. Larry Siegel, who did, as you just noted, who did a wonderful job introducing some basic concepts to covenant eschatology. And then I gave the very first of three lessons on Matthew chapter 25, the Olivet Discourse. But after the very first night, when I got on the internet the very next day, I looked at the viewership, and there were over 1,500 viewers had logged on and had watched the proceedings from Thursday night, and I was like, "Whoa, that's That's impressive. And then, like I said, here we are, 3 days later, and we've got almost 6,000 views. So it's very, very impressive. And to read the response of the viewers on YouTube, of people saying, no matter what, I'm coming next year. It was absolutely great to be able to watch and to see the interaction, to watch the lessons being presented. But there's absolutely nothing like being there, and that's true. Of course.
That's right.
There's nothing like that personal fellowship, the one-to-one presence of being with someone, and of course, as you mentioned, after what took place after the lessons, during the breaks, was itself just absolutely fantastic. To be able to just, and you'd see that happening over and over. You'd see little groups of 3, 4, 5 people that were standing around. They were talking about the lessons. They were asking questions, and that is one of the most gratifying, one of the most enjoyable things of any seminar. Again, it's that face-to-face interaction with people, many of whom you've never, ever met before. And we had a very nice representation of brand new people, people that we did not know, we had never met before, and had never attended a Preterist Pilgrim Weekend. And so that was an exciting aspect of the seminar, to know that we had lots and lots of new faces. We had lots and lots of people who had been watching the YouTube videos, for instance. They were familiar with you. They were familiar with me. But they had never, ever attended any activity before. And their enthusiasm particularly was just off the charts. They were so thrilled to be able to be there and to participate. So I just can't say enough. I thought every speaker was well prepared. I thought your lesson on the charismatic gifts of the Spirit, the last day's work of the Holy Spirit, was fantastic and much needed. I thought it was. I thought you were just so on point with that lesson, and of course Daniel Rogers did an absolutely fantastic job in both of his lessons. One lesson on Daniel, the lesson on Revelation. So, like I said, I just thought the lessons and I thought the speakers did an outstanding job overall. I just, at times in the past we've had lessons that we kind of, almost had to stop and say, okay, okay, that's great, but but we didn't have any of that this year. The Q&A session was great. And so, like I said, my wife and I both, needless to say, we were absolutely worn out, as we always are. But I've got to give another shout out to the absolutely wonderful, wonderful help that we get every year. Rod and Connie Rupert from Springfield, Missouri, are just some of our steady go-to people. We don't have to, basically, we don't have to guide them and direct them about anything to do. They know what to do. They jump in and they do it. The same with Jim and Sharon Wade from from down in Texas. I mean, these are 4 people that just you just simply cannot say enough good about their willingness to help, their desire to help, and the wonderful job that they do. Like I said, Jan's health still doesn't allow her to be there absolutely all of the time. So she, on Friday especially, she has to go home and she has to rest up a little bit during the afternoon sessions. But, I mean, we have absolutely no concerns at all. Rod and Connie are there. They take care of everything. They've kind of got their thing that they take care of. Jim and Sharon take care of the book table, Sharon especially. And Jim runs around doing gopher stuff. Rod, this year, our normal supply for our water, our bottled water, I can't say anything good about them, to be honest about it. They let me down, even though I had been going by the store constantly and double checking and was reassured everything was good. The water had been ordered. It was going to be there. Well, I arrived on Thursday morning, and a new manager that I had never seen, never spoken to, she opens the back door, and she was basically like, "Who are you, and what do you want?" And she was not professionally courteous in my feeling, and I told her exactly who I was. And she said, "I have no earthly idea what you're talking about." And I was like, "Please tell me that you're not serious." And she said, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know about any order for any water." And I said, "Well, let me explain something to you." I said, starting a couple of months ago, I started coming by the shop, telling exactly what I needed and when I needed it. I was assured that it would be taken care of, no doubt whatsoever. And I said, not only that, last week I came by. I was assured that the water had been ordered. It would be here without any difficulty. On Monday and Tuesday, I came by. I was assured once again the water had been ordered. There would be no difficulty. And I said, now I arrive at your store, and I speak to you that I've never spoken to before, and you tell me that you don't know anything in the world about my order. And I said, needless to say, I'm not very happy about this. I said, and she started this spiel about, and by the way, she never offered any apology whatsoever. Not one time did she say, Mr. Preston, I'm awfully sorry for this mix-up. All that she offered was that Coke, the supplier, she claimed the order had been placed with Coke, but that they had refused or failed, rather, to deliver it. And I said, how much water do you have on floor that I can take with me now? She said, not so much as a case. So I said, in other words, even though I've been coming by for 4 months, sometimes multiple times a week, no one provided for me to have any water whatsoever. Well, we tried. So I just turned around and got my truck, and I drove off, and I called Jan, told her what the situation was, and Rod Rupert got in his car and took off, going to store after store, picking up enough water for us to have water at the Predators Pilgrim weekend. I mean, it was just, that's definitely going way beyond the call of duty. But that's the kind of people that we have helping us out. And so, like I said, it just not enough good. There are really no words to express our appreciation to the people who help out. It's just absolutely wonderful.
Well, I know what you mean, and I was able to experience, the kind of help that you all have. It's a great team of people that work together, never have any issues, and it runs so smoothly that you almost don't know they're there. They just do what has to be done, and they do it extremely well. And, that just speaks volumes of the leadership there and of the love and interest that everybody has to see the overall objective of the conference to succeed, and they make it happen every year like clockwork. I want to back up just a little bit as well to talk about your lesson, because you didn't say anything about it, but your lesson on Matthew 25, at Matthew 24 and 25 were just absolutely outstanding. And for anyone who wants to understand the continuity between those two chapters should go back and pull Don's lessons and really carefully study them. He did just an outstanding job of tying the two chapters together, showing that there was no division and break. And then, of course, in his last lesson, and I heard people just in awe of that final lesson that he did on the feast days, tying that in with Matthew 24 and verse 36. And, I don't know if anybody else noticed, but, how Dunn used to have, and I say used to have, and I'm sure, he slowed down a little bit, but he said they used to call him Motor Mouth. Well, he took his time. He took his time through that presentation and had, just a very, very comfortable pace in providing that information. And I suppose because it was such, the feast days have made such an impact on us, for sure. I know on him and on me as well. And he shared, that information that just shows how the end time correlates with those feast days, and especially with the Feast of Trumpets. And as he spoke from Zechariah 14, correlating that information with Matthew 24 and verse 36. It's a point that so many people just do not get deep enough into the study to understand, and he was able to bring that out in such a way that just brought so much clarity to the subject, and I'm sure will change a lot of people's perspective in looking at that text. I mean, once you see how it fits within the framework of the feast days, and particularly of the Feast of Trumpets, it just opens it up in a way that, no one could ever shut the meaning of that text out again. I mean, there's no way to go back, once you really understand what it means. And when you see that, I mean, the beauty of Matthew 24 and the continuity of those two chapters just fall directly in place. And you can see the Feast of Trumpets and all of its other names and designations all the way through Matthew 24 and 25. I mean, it's all there in the chapter pretty much so when you understand what those different names are. So great job on that, Don. And I recommend very highly that everyone will find that, locate that presentation and watch it several times. And of all things, share it with your teachers and leaders, Bible teachers, your preachers, etc., because they definitely need that information. Whether they understand that or not, they need it.
Well, I appreciate that very much. As you well know, the feast days really have revolutionized my own personal understanding of Scripture. And as I noted in my presentation, Jim Wade, one of our wonderful helpers, he's the one that introduced me to some of these concepts, as well, of course, as hearing David... pardon me, hearing David Curtis speak on the feast days. What's that been, 15 years ago, my goodness.
Yeah, don't forget Bill Cannengeiser, too, remember?
Well, I started to say 1997. That's exactly right. And I forgot to mention Bill during that presentation, but Bill Cannengeiser, he will call me maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And Bill has done such marvelous work on the feast days. When he spoke on the feast days in 1997, it just literally blew my mind. I'll be really honest, I did not grasp a lot of what Bill said at that particular time. The longer time went on, the more I began to realize the power of what Bill had said, however. And I was able to go, oh, my goodness gracious, and to be able to coordinate that into a lot of my teaching and especially my understanding of Scripture. But the entire subject of the feast days completely permeates the New Testament teaching on eschatology. And when I began to see, and I have to share this as I shared a little bit during one of my lessons, when I was actually in a used bookstore in Oklahoma City some years ago. Pardon me. And I happened to pick up a book from Cyrus to Titus. Jerusalem, from Cyrus to Titus. The book was written in the 19th century, and by a scholar by the name of Latimer, I believe. Well, I was just flipping through the pages. One of my professors, when I was in preacher school, used to say, we were discussing the buying of books, and he said, if you can get one great piece of historical, exegetical evidence, testimony, fact from any book, then you need to buy it. Well, so I'm looking at this book, and I'm scanning the pages, and I run onto this comment about Matthew 23:39. And Latimer makes the comment that when Jesus said in Matthew 23:39, you shall not henceforth see me until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. She pointed out that this was taken from the Song of Ascent of Psalms 118. And she pointed out the history behind it, that this song was sung when the travelers who were coming to Jerusalem to worship at the feast days, they would see the caravans coming, and they would get up on the walls of Jerusalem, and they would sing, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And that hit me. It explained Matthew 23:39 like I had never, ever, ever imagined it. I could see immediately that Jesus was giving a somewhat cryptic, certainly veiled, but would have been well understood by his Jewish audience. He was giving a comment on when his coming would be. It would be during one of the feast days. Well, when you explore, the siege and destruction of Jerusalem, you know that's exactly what happened. And that really started me on a journey of exploring the relationship of the Olivet Discourse, the terminology of the Olivet Discourse, and the feast days. And I have just simply been blown away about how many, we would call them veiled, references to the feast days can be found in the Olivet Discourse. I mean, it literally is incredible. And, you know, the sad thing about it is, William, as you well know, so many people today are themselves still ignorant of the feast days. And let me assure everyone, I make no claim to be the final word on the feast days. I'm still studying hard to understand the feast days. But it's really distressing to me now, even given my current state of knowledge, as limited as it might be. It is still so distressing to me when you present something about the relationship between the Olivet Discourse and the feast days, and you have someone who admittedly has never studied the feast days a day in their life. None. Zero, zilch, period. And yet they come back and they say things like, I've never heard of such a thing in all of my life. That's the most ridiculous, heretical, false teaching that I've ever considered. etc., etc. So here are people who admittedly have never ever studied the doctrine of the feast days, and yet they are so bold and so arrogant that they just claim that the feast days, even though they were typological, Paul himself emphatically says so in Colossians chapter 2, 15 and 16, that the new moons, the feast days, and the Sabbaths were still, when he wrote, present active indicative, shadows of good things about to come. So here we have Paul, written well after Pentecost, written well after the cross, still affirming that the feast days, and he specifically mentions the feast of the new moon. Well, guess what, folks? Rosh Hashanah was the distinctive new moon feast day. And it was still, when Paul wrote, still a shadow of the good things that had not yet come. And so the arrogance of people, ministers, generally speaking, to boldly assert there is absolutely no way this can be true. This is heresy. This is false doctrine. You know, you're leading people to hell by saying this. It's stunning. It's literally stunning to hear people say things like this when they admit they've never even studied the issue. What they're affirming is, well, I know everything there is to be known. I don't need to study any other subject. I have it all down. My knowledge is perfect. Therefore, what you're presenting to me, even though you can consider what Paul said, that those things are still types and shadows of the good things about to come, that doesn't mean anything, because I've got it all figured out. And you can't convince me of even one single thing, no matter what Paul says. And that's so distressing. It's so disturbing. But you hear things like that, unfortunately, far too commonly from people who, again, have never studied the issue. So that entire subject of the feast days, like I said, has totally revolutionized my personal study, my personal understanding of the Scriptures. And, you know, when you go through the Old Testament, it's quite amazing how often you will read comments made by the biblical writers of the time coming in which it would be a time of joy, like the joy of the feasts, etc., etc. And this shows you what an impact the feast days had on the biblical writers. The feast days made an indelible impact on them. They were part and parcel of their entire theological life, their entire theological expression and terminology. And for us today to be so arrogant, for us today to be so, ignorant of those relationships is really a sad, sad testimony about our failure to do our homework.
Well, that's definitely true, and I have the same sentiments about the feast days as you do, and I remember when Bill Kennengeiser spoke about them, how floored we all were. At least I know I was, and I believe, as you say, you were as well. And then when David Curtis came along and spoke about it, that really put some things in perspective in a more compact way than Bill Kennengeiser. It was our first time hearing it when Bill spoke on them, and then when David Curtis spoke on them, he had really tied them in a way that just made them, made the information pop off the page, and from there, I know both you and I were hooked from that day forward in studying about them. And it's
just so amazing to see that everything in the scriptures, as far as the end time, is in alignment with those feast days. It's just really, really amazing. And anyone who will not take the time to study that and to see how impressive that information is and how revolutionary it is in terms of helping our thinking to grasp what was going on, they just absolutely miss it. But, as we always say, and as you've just spoken, the Jewish audience to whom Jesus was speaking would have immediately recognized that. And that's the beauty of it. And that's why we have to study to, put ourselves into their position, to try to understand their culture and the meaning of these things as it was given to them. And that is just one of the crippling things in studying both the Bible and particularly eschatology today is the tendency for people to try to bring it into our newspaper and tabloid culture and try to seek answers, based upon those events and these local and national events that are happening in our day. And what a tragedy and a travesty in terms of understanding the scriptures. Well, I know we've talked, a lot tonight about what has taken place, at the Preterist Program weekend, which was great. And we, shared a little bit of an extension on the feast days from kind of talking about your lesson. I wanted to get in one announcement here before I go any further, and then we can, get into some of the Thessalonians material in the time that we have left. And that is, I am excited about this. I'm really excited that we will begin another radio broadcast. Like I have all the time in the world to do this stuff. I don't. But I will definitely have to change my schedule, tighten up a little bit where I've got some loose ends. Sorry about that. Somebody downstairs will get it, I'm sure. Well, they didn't so far. But at any rate, that is that's what's going on. And so we have a new radio broadcast that is going to begin in the Memphis area. Actually, it will cover Shelby County. It will go as far west in Arkansas to Little Rock, covering West Memphis, Forest City, Little Rock, and then it will also cover Jonesboro and go as far south in Mississippi to Tupelo, and that's really exciting. And it's also on both an AM and an FM station, so it will be AM 990 and FM 107.9, as well as they will post it on Facebook. They will do some promotions through the week for this broadcast. So we're really excited because it's right here in the area where we need to get a bit more concentration of the teaching, and I think it's just right in hand. We have our Memphis Eschatology Seminar or conference coming up in October, so this will give us some time to promote that as well. And I want to thank you, Don, and the Preterist Program Research Institute for being willing to help us with that. We are really grateful for that. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited about it. We're looking forward to it. And I had a conversation with the station manager today and got him a little bit excited about it as well. So we hope that this will turn out to be a very, very good project for us. And I'm looking forward to having Don as guest on the show and from time to time, and several others that we will be able to showcase along the way. So it'll be a great opportunity for people to get to meet some of these speakers that may not be known as well in the Memphis area and surrounding areas, and we will expose them. And by doing that, I'm sure we will touch some lives and see some changes in people as they grow and learn and grasp some of the things that we're saying.
Well, folks, I tell you what, William hasn't even shared with you the entire scope of all of the radio work that he's involved in. I mean, William is becoming a radio voice of preterism, especially in the black community right now. The opportunities and the doors that have opened up for him over the last 6 to 8 months are literally just absolutely phenomenal. He is receiving repeated requests and invitations to have 30-minute, 1-hour programs all the way, I mean, from here to there. He has been on a couple, or at least one, worldwide radio program. He is just receiving one request after another, and this kind of opportunity is opening up. And, I mean, this is literally, I mean, folks, this is literally unprecedented. No one has had the opportunities to get on radio and share this message like William Bell is receiving right now. And so you just think about that, and like I said, it's just absolutely staggering, and it's ultra exciting. So our congratulations are most assuredly due to William, and we just literally praise the Lord for the doors that he is opening. And there's no telling what the future is going to hold as a direct result of William receiving these opportunities. And everyone knows, that William's got the perfect voice for radio. but he's not only got the voice, he's got the mind. He's got the teaching ability, he's got the knowledge, he's got the wisdom to be able to do this in a way that will communicate the truth very powerfully, very effectively to all of these large audiences that will be listening in. So, boy, you talk about exciting. This. How many times, William, have we said we are living in one of the most exciting times imaginable? We used to not even be able to fathom what's happening now. We used to dream about some of these things happening. And now they're happening, and it's it's staggering. But boy, is it exciting.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I was having a conversation, and you probably know who this is, and we won't have to say who this is, but I was having a conversation from someone watching a couple of the YouTube videos today, and he's a young fella that's in college, and he told me that you and he have a broadcast or something that's coming up pretty soon. But what I'm excited about is this guy is about 20 years old, and he's trying to get studies with, on his college campus, and wants to do something from that perspective. And I'm totally excited about that, because, these young people are not going to have this kind of hang-ups that a lot of the older ones have, and who, just have a very, very hard time shaking the emotional attachment to their traditions and their opinions about Scripture, and are real slow to change from those things. But, we're when you can get young people who can study the Bible and give them the right foundation, along with their excitement, their enthusiasm, and their energy, it's just absolutely an amazing thing to see. So I'm interested in seeing how that turns out, and not just with him, but with several young people who will get involved like that. I mean, we can see already what happens with a person like, Daniel Rogers, who was already, of course, a great Bible student to begin with. But him and others like him of his age, the enthusiasm that they have, and the mountains and hills and valleys and et cetera that have already been kind of knocked down for them and cleared out and cleaned out, just will give them a greater opportunity to share the message with a lot less of all the things that that some of us have had to endure along the way, and at least certainly not longer. We're not saying that they won't, because we know that they will be affected, and so many people refuse to get involved. I know some sitting right here in Memphis, Tennessee, that could speak on a conference next year on covenant eschatology, but they won't do it because they're so afraid and concerned about what their career aspects will be. And so
yes,
they just don't do it. But those are the things that we're looking at, to see the courage of these young people and the opportunities that opens up for the future.
Yeah, you mentioned the young man, this college student. I really did not know him very much. I had heard his name a time or two, but I really wasn't all that tremendously familiar with him. I knew that what I had heard was good, but again, I just didn't know a lot of details, and so I received the invitation from him to be on his radio program, which we carried on YouTube and other venues as well. And so I began investigating it a little bit. And my goodness gracious, it is incredible to see the work they're putting in. They are particularly zealous in their anti-Zionist movement. Now, some people would call that anti-Semitic, but it's not. It is simply, and we're going to approach it, obviously, from the scriptural theological perspective of the dangers of Zionism. What is Zionism theologically, and what are the dangers of it? As I mentioned to him in some of our exchanges, I don't want to deal with it strictly from the political venue or side, but you can't separate the theological side from the political side in any kind of a hard, sharp distinction, because there's an interplay between them. The theological side gave rise to the political side, and so I'm really, really looking forward to it. Got to get some pressing business taken care of this week, and then he and I will be back in touch with each other, and we'll get that set up. We'll announce that for everyone to be able to listen in. He's obviously got a really good audience, and so that's exciting. We've said this before many, many times, that each person or each ministry has a distinctive outreach, and they can reach people that no one else can reach. And that is exactly what we see happening over and over and over again, as some of these different people, they pop up, as it were. And we may not have heard of them, but we see the impact. We see the audience that they have. And it's incredible to see the audience that they are reaching. And they are audiences that don't know us and that we didn't even know about.
That's right.
And so these new doors are being opened that just simply open up a wider, vaster audience to the message of covenant eschatology. And again, to reiterate what I said a moment ago, boy, are we ever living in exciting times. And William, I've just got to make this comment. I've said this so many times before. I don't want it to be repetitious, but it needs to be said. How many times on Facebook or YouTube do we read or do we hear the enemies of covenant eschatology brashly, boldly claim, preterism is dying, nobody's interested in it, they're just a tiny, tiny handful of people that are even slightly interested in this doctrine, nobody's listening. Okay, so from last Saturday until today, almost 6,000 viewers have seen and watched the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend. Now, I don't know about you, William, but I'm not aware of any other preterist event that has had that kind of viewership in that short a period of time. I've never heard of a preterist event have that kind of viewership in that short of time. Perhaps there has been, but if so, I haven't heard about it. And so I just have to laugh. I mean, literally laugh when I read or I watch our adversaries get up and arrogantly claim, oh, nobody's interested, nobody's listening, this is dying out, et cetera, and you go, oh, really? Then why have there been 6,000 views of one event over the last 3 days? Could you explain that to me? So it's just downright funny. As I very often post, when some of our enemies post their remarks like that, I just tell them, I said, number one, you don't know what you're talking about. Number two, you are clearly whistling as you walk by the graveyard. Number three, you're probably very, very, very much aware of how rapidly covenant eschatology is, in fact, growing, but you're trying to use propaganda. You're trying to just make the claim. You know, Hitler often said, if you say something often enough, loudly enough, boldly enough, then somebody will be, or people would begin to believe it. And that's what I tell them. You're trying to convince yourself and you're trying to convince others in the use of propaganda. Nobody's interested. Everybody thinks this is crazy. Well, that's funny. I mean, it's literally funny because when they make those comments, you know that they are in full-blown panic about how quickly and how rapidly covenant eschatology is spreading all over the world. Now, I know this is anecdotal, but Sunday morning, I was sitting at my desk, and my phone rings, and it's a video call from Pakistan. And this individual has been watching my YouTubes very faithfully, and he said he was giving me a tour of his village. Now, I have to tell you, I couldn't understand hardly anything that he said. His English is extremely, extremely broken. As he would be talking in English, he would break out into his native tongue because he couldn't get the English words. And so I'm sitting there going, whoa, 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 whoa. But he showed me his church building. There's a preterist church in Pakistan, evidently. And he said, please come to Pakistan and help us get this work off the ground. And now, we all know Christian missionaries are not welcome in Pakistan. It'd be a really, really good way to die. Not much is going to be done there from Preston's perspective about traveling to Pakistan. But again, that came out of the clear blue, William. Out of the absolute clear blue sky of this guy from Pakistan telling me about this preterist church that's been established, and they want me to come and work with them. I mean, it's just things like that continue to happen all of the time, of works that are springing up, congregations. It doesn't matter how large they are at this point. The fact is that these fellowship groups and these churches are springing up everywhere, all around the world, of people who are discovering the truth of eschatology, of covenant eschatology, and they are rediscovering their trust in the Lord's Word. They are rediscovering and reviving and refreshing their love for the Lord, because now they know without a shadow of a doubt they can defend the deity of Jesus Christ, because he didn't fail. They don't have to run circles around or do the Passover in regard to Jesus' teaching about his coming. And so when you encounter things like this, day after day, week after week, it's, on the one hand, it's tremendously humbling to be a part of sharing this message, and it's exciting to be able to share this message with people from around the world and to begin to see the fruit of our labors. I made the comment from the podium during the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend. I was pointing out that we had 5 or 6, maybe 7 guys, some of them speakers, not all of them, present at Preterist Pilgrim Weekend, who are authors of really, really good preterist books. Pardon me. We had Dan Derry, who's written a fantastic book on the transition between two covenants. Joseph Vincent has written a fantastic book on the 40-year millennium. Of course, we were absolutely thrilled to have Glenn Hill, who's written a wonderful book entitled Christianity's Greatest Dilemma. Glenn was there. He wasn't speaking for us. But in addition to that, of course, we had you. You've written 3 or 4 books. We have Daniel Rogers, who has written really great little book on the last enemy, then the triumph of Christ. And not only that, he has just introduced a brand new commentary on Thessalonians. It's now available. We had Alan Bondar, who has written The Journey Between the Veils. But I made the comment. I was taking note of all of these men who are there who have written books. Now, by the way, the Dannenbergs were there. They've written a novel on covenant eschatology. They were there. They had the table set up. They were selling their books. So, anyway, I made the comment from the pulpit that you and I could remember the day in which there was 1 or 2 books on preterism. That's the only books that were available. There was one seminar in the entire world on preterism. And we used to just look forward to the day in which, guess what? There would be books by different people. There would be seminars in different venues. And now here we are, as I pointed out, we have people from all of these different states who have traveled to be present for Preterist Pilgrim Weekend. And not only that, the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend was being live broadcast all around the world for people to watch free of charge, and they were obviously watching. How incredible is this to see, to think, to realize how much the movement of covenant eschatology has grown and continues to grow on a daily basis. It's absolutely wonderful. It's almost staggering at times to consider what's happening, and it's so thrilling to be a part of it.
It most certainly is, and I'm just excited totally about it. I know you are, and a lot of people are. And the more we see it, the more we engage, and the fact that I always get a kick out of these people talking about we're not going to give you a platform, right? And these platforms just continue to open. And I want to say one last thing, I guess, before we go, and that is. We're also producing these tracts now, and I know that I have mailed tracts out to about 8 states already. I've got a box ready to go to another state. On tomorrow we'll ship it out, and so this is a way where even people who may not speak, but they are in other ways supportive of the movement. They want to be involved. This gives them an opportunity to do so. My brother, he has some, and he says, I just go up to everybody and say, here, do you want this, or here, take this, or whatever. And so, he's giving people an opportunity to do it through these tracks. And so this is another way. So we just continue to look for ways and opportunities to spread the message, and that's what we're doing.
Absolutely.
I'll let you have the closing word, and then we'll just check out of here.
Yeah, and speaking of the tracks, I intended to mention to you, I want you to send me a sample pack so that we can get some of those, so that we can get them in people's hands as well. So send me a sample pack of the tracks that you've written. Well, folks, I hope that you've enjoyed this evening's program, in which we shared with you just some of the exciting things that are going on in the world of preterism and how exciting it is to be alive at such a time as this. So thanks again for joining William Bell and myself right here on Two Guys in the Bible and Fulfilled Radio, a voice you can trust. So with that, we will say good night and God bless.
Thank you for joining the Two Guys in the Bible radio broadcast. On behalf of Dunn Preston and myself, we'd like to say have a very pleasant day and may God bless. Until next time, we'll see you on Fulfill Radio, a voice you can trust.